For most of my life, I thought I had it pretty good. Nothing flashy, nothing wild, just steady. I grew up in a quiet part of Ohio, married my high school sweetheart, Danielle, and settled down in a modest 3-bedroom house about an hour outside Columbus. I worked as a mechanic, ran my own small garage. She was a nurse at the local clinic. We weren't rich, but we had enough. Our lives were built on routine: weekend barbecues, Sunday church, road trips to visit family during the holidays. Danielle and I had been married for 11 years. No kids, though we tried a few times. It just never happened. Still, I thought we were happy. We laughed a lot, went out for dinner once a week, binge-watched crime documentaries curled up on the couch. Sure, we had our fights, what couple doesn't, but I thought we were solid. Then came my cousin Tyler. Tyler was the kind of guy you knew was trouble the moment he stepped in a room, too smooth, always flashing that cocky grin. We'd grown up together, though I'd never been close with him. He moved around a lot, bounced between jobs, always had some half-baked business idea that never quite worked out. I hadn't seen him in years, but one day he just showed up. Said he was passing through, needed a place to crash for a few days. Danielle said it was fine. He's family, right? And I didn't think much of it. That was my first mistake. At first, everything seemed normal enough. Tyler crashed on the couch, offered to help out around the house, even helped me change the brake pads on Danielle's car. He was charming, no doubt about that. Always knew just what to say to make people like him. But there was something about the way he looked at Danielle, too long, too confident. And her smiles back? Too easy. Still, I told myself I was imagining it. Paranoia, maybe? I'd been working long hours at the shop, sometimes 10 or 12-hour days just to keep up with bills. I figured I was just tired, reading into things that weren't there. Tyler stayed longer than he said he would. 3 days turned into a week, then 2, but Danielle didn't seem to mind. If anything, she got more talkative when he was around. One night, I came home late and caught them laughing in the kitchen. It was just the two of them. She was in one of my old flannel shirts, barefoot, holding a glass of wine. Tyler was sitting too close, leaning on the counter like he belonged there. They went quiet when I walked in. "Hey babe," Danielle said too casually. "Tyler was just telling me about that time in high school you both got caught sneaking into the county fair." I forced a smile. "Yeah. That was a dumb night." I didn't say anything else. I just watched them. Something in my gut twisted. The way she looked at him. It wasn't how you look at your husband's cousin. The weirdness didn't stop there. I started noticing the little things. The way Danielle would get up earlier than usual, hair already done before I even made it to the kitchen. The way she suddenly had more energy, more interest in working out, dressing up, even on days she wasn't going anywhere. And then there was her phone. She used to leave it laying around the house, never cared if I picked it up to check the weather or Google something. Now, it was always either in her pocket or face down. Notifications stopped popping up on the lock screen. Tyler was still looking for work. But I wasn't buying it. He barely left the house. Always found an excuse to stick around while I was out working. Waiting for a call, helping Danielle with some stuff. Or resting up from a rough night. I'd come home and find them on the back deck drinking beers like they were on vacation. It started to get under my skin. Still, I said nothing. I didn't want to be the jealous husband making accusations with no proof. I wanted to trust her. I needed to. But trust only gets you so far. One afternoon, I left work early. My last appointment cancelled, and I thought it'd be a nice surprise to come home and cook dinner for once. Danielle didn't know I was coming back yet. I pulled into the driveway around 3:45. Her car was there. So was Tyler's. The front door was locked, which was weird since she usually left it open if she was home. I walked around the side of the house, quiet, trying not to assume the worst. And then I heard it, laughter. A man's voice. Hers. Followed by a silence that was louder than anything. Then the unmistakable sound of a zipper. I froze. My heartbeat was pounding in my ears, and my first instinct was to turn around and walk away, pretend I didn't hear what I just heard. But something inside me snapped. I crept up to the back door, which was slightly ajar, and pushed it open just enough to peer through the crack into the living room. And there they were. Danielle, half-dressed, straddling Tyler on the couch, the same damn couch I'd bought when we moved in 5 years ago. Her hair was messy, her face flushed, and they were both so wrapped up in each other they didn't even hear the door creak. I don't remember how long I stood there. Could have been 5 seconds, could have been 30. I felt frozen, like my brain couldn't catch up to what my eyes were seeing. My wife. My cousin. In my house. While I was out busting my ass just to keep the lights on. Something shifted in the air, and Danielle finally looked up, saw me standing there. Her expression went from pleasure to pure panic in a split second. She scrambled off him, pulling the flannel shirt closed over her chest, stammering something that didn't even sound like words. Tyler, that smug bastard, just sat there for a second, shirtless, like he didn't know whether to laugh or apologize. You weren't supposed to be home, Danielle finally said, her voice trembling. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. I just stared at them both. All the late nights, all the gut feelings, all the quiet doubts, they weren't paranoia. They were warnings I ignored. And now, the truth was sitting in front of me like a loaded gun. I don't know how long I stood there, silent, staring at the wreckage of what used to be my life. My hands were clenched so tight I could feel my nails digging into my palms. Danielle was crying now, real or not, I didn't care. Tyler finally stood up, acting like he was going to say something, but I held up my hand. Don't. Just don't. He stopped, mouth open, then shut it again. The look on his face wasn't guilt, it was fear. Maybe not fear of what he'd done, but fear of what I might do. I walked out without another word. Got in my truck, drove a few blocks down, parked under a tree, and just sat there. Everything I'd built, everything I'd trusted, it felt like it had been wiped out in a single moment. And the worst part? I wasn't even angry yet. I was numb. Hollow. Like I'd been unplugged from my own life. I didn't go back home that night. I crashed at a motel on Route 22. Sat in that ugly, stale-smelling room with a six-pack and 1,000 thoughts racing through my head. Every conversation over the last few weeks played back in my mind, her sudden laughter at Tyler's dumb jokes, the mysterious, girl nights she'd been taking, the weird tension when I walked into a room. It all made sense now. The next morning, I went to the garage and opened up like it was any other day. Kept my hands busy. Changed oil, rotated tires, rebuilt a carburetor. Anything to keep from thinking. But by mid-afternoon, I knew I had to go back. I had to deal with it. I couldn't avoid it forever. When I pulled into the driveway, Tyler's car was gone. Danielle's was still there. I walked inside. She was sitting at the kitchen table, eyes swollen, her wedding ring spinning slowly on the wood. She looked up when I stepped in, like a kid waiting for a punishment. Her mascara had run, and her hair was still a mess. For once, she didn't try to fix it. She just sat there, chewing on her lip, eyes darting around like she couldn't find a safe place to look. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I don't know what happened." I closed the door behind me. "You do know what happened. You just didn't think I'd catch you." Her face crumpled. She stood up, started toward me, hands reaching out like that would somehow undo everything. "I didn't mean for it to." "Stop." That one word hit her like a slap. She froze mid-step, hands dropping to her sides. I walked past her into the living room, sat down on the very couch where she and Tyler had been tangled up the day before. I didn't want to be there, but I needed answers. Not closure, truth. Because lies had been suffocating me for weeks, and I couldn't breathe in them anymore. "How long?" I asked. She hesitated, then said quietly, "A few weeks." I laughed, bitter and low. "So, just long enough for him to make himself at home. Did he plan this, or was this your bright idea?" Her eyes flared. "Don't talk to me like I'm some kind of monster. You were never home. You were always working. I felt alone. My jaw clenched. So you filled the space with my cousin? She didn't answer. Just stared at the floor, ashamed or pretending to be. The silence between us felt heavier than any shouting match. That's when I realized we weren't going to fix this. Whatever we'd had, whatever had once held us together, had been gutted by betrayal. I stood up, walked into our bedroom, and grabbed a bag. I didn't pack much. Just enough. She didn't try to stop me. I stayed at a buddy's place for the next couple nights. Ricky, a guy I've known since middle school. Good man. No questions, just handed me a beer and said, "Couch is yours, man. Take whatever time you need." I never realized how much I needed that kind of quiet support until it was offered. During those first few nights away, the shock started to give way to anger. Real, white-hot, stomach-churning anger. Not just at Danielle, but at Tyler too. Family. He was blood. We grew up together. He knew what she meant to me. Hell, he toasted us at our wedding, said I was like a brother. I guess he meant that in the Cain and Abel sense. I started putting the pieces together, looking back through my memory with fresh eyes. Turns out, this had probably started long before I ever heard that zipper. It was in the way they acted when I walked into a room, how they'd both suddenly go quiet or change the subject. There were entire conversations I hadn't even noticed I wasn't part of. I had a decision to make. And it wasn't just about the marriage, it was about the house, the money, everything Danielle and I had built together. I knew her well enough to know that guilt wouldn't stop her from trying to walk away with more than her share. She might have broken her vows, but that wouldn't stop her from playing the victim. So I called a lawyer. Didn't matter that it felt too soon. In situations like this, you don't wait for the storm to pass, you prepare for it. And I was done being blindsided. I filed for divorce the following week. Irreconcilable differences, though I was tempted to write sleeping with my cousin like it's a damn hobby. But I kept it clean. She'd already done enough damage. I wasn't going to let her take everything too. The day she was served the divorce papers, Danielle called me. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail, crying, saying things like, "We can work through this." And, "You're just hurt right now, but please don't do this yet." The thing was, there was no yet anymore. This wasn't a fight we could bounce back from. This was betrayal at the deepest level. I finally texted her back, short and to the point, "This isn't something I can forgive. Let's handle this like adults." Her response came hours later, "Fine. If that's how it's going to be, then I want what's mine." And there it was. The real Danielle. Not the crying wife begging for forgiveness, but the one already counting what she could walk away with. She wanted the house. Said it was hers, because her name was on the deed too. Said she sacrificed her time to keep the home together while I was off playing handyman. That one almost made me laugh. I wasn't playing anything. I was working to pay for that damn roof over our heads while she played house with my cousin. What she didn't know, what I never told her, is that months earlier, I had refinanced the mortgage. Paid off a chunk using an inheritance I received from my grandfather, before we got married. My lawyer told me that money was considered separate property since it was gifted to me directly and never mingled into joint accounts. So we ran the numbers, clean and legal. It turned out, I had more equity in the house than she did. A lot more. And suddenly, her confident tone started to shift. She tried to argue, claimed she deserved half of everything. We built this life together. But I'd kept every receipt, every tax record, every payment stub. I wasn't angry anymore. I was ready. Danielle didn't go down easy. Once she realized I wasn't going to roll over, she turned cold. Her text switched from emotional pleas to veiled threats, talk of lawyers, fairness, and how judges always lean toward the wife. She even tried to throw around the idea of spousal support, claiming she had sacrificed her career for our home life. Never mind the fact that she worked full-time as a nurse throughout our entire marriage. Tyler, of course, disappeared. As soon as things got real, he ghosted both of us. Last I heard, he left town, probably running from responsibility like he always did. Not that I cared anymore. He wasn't my concern. My fight was with Danielle now, and she was playing a dirtier game than I expected. She filed her response through her own attorney, demanded half the house, part of my business, and even tried to claim emotional damages. Said I was emotionally distant, and created an unsafe environment in the marriage. That one made me laugh out loud. I guess her definition of unsafe was me being too busy working to notice her sleeping with family under my roof. But like I said, I'd done my homework. I handed over all the documents to my attorney. Mortgage records, financial statements, screenshots of text I'd found on the cloud after I logged into our shared iPad, conversations between her and Tyler that left no doubt about the affair. We didn't need video. We had enough to establish infidelity, and in our state, that still matters. The moment she realized she'd be walking away with far less than she expected, her tone changed again. She asked to meet. Said we should talk things through like adults. Try to avoid a drawn-out court battle. I agreed. But I wasn't there to reconcile. I was there to make sure she understood that everything had changed, and I wasn't the man she thought she could walk all over anymore. We met at a neutral spot, some bland little law office conference room, sterile and cold, fitting for what had become of our marriage. Danielle walked in dress like she was going to Sunday service, neat, proper, a little too polished. Her lawyer sat beside her, eyes scanning my face like I was the one who'd done wrong. I didn't bring any theatrics. Just a folder of documents, a pen, and my lawyer beside me, calm, confident, and quiet. Danielle tried to start with small talk. "You look tired," she said, like that mattered now. I didn't respond. We got down to business. Her side opened with a push for mediation, trying to angle for 50% of the house and a chunk of my business. My lawyer slid the numbers across the table. Equity breakdown. Personal inheritance documentation. Proof the garage was solely in my name from before we were even married. Then the kicker, a printout of Danielle's messages with Tyler, pulled from the cloud backup she forgot to disable. Her lawyer's face dropped as he flipped through the pages. Danielle's lips tightened. I didn't need to say a word. Her betrayal was in black and white, right there on the table. My lawyer calmly stated our position. Danielle walks away with her car, her personal belongings, and a small settlement to help her move. That's it. No claim on the business. No half of the house. No alimony. We could settle it here, or we could take it to court and air out everything for a judge, maybe even a jury. Danielle looked at me then. Really looked. For the first time since that day I caught them, I saw something real flicker in her eyes. Regret, maybe? But it was too damn late for that. She signed the agreement. That was the last time we ever spoke. And when I walked out of that room, I didn't feel victorious. I just felt free.